It looks like the Stargate movie plan might be dead. But is there a possible silver lining? A Brad Wright silver lining? Welcome to SciTrek, your sci-fi TV and movie channel, doing a video I really don't want to do. It was this channel that first dropped the news that Amazon were looking at a Stargate movie. Deadline then reported it, and several other insiders after us. But you heard it first and exclusive here. Now, sadly, I have to drop the news that it might actually be dead. That during the strikes, Amazon might have rethought its position and come up with a new idea. Maybe. Let me tell you, though, what is going on and why do I know what I know. So if you are a regular SciTrekker, you'll know that I have sources that work in and around the industry, and thanks to those sources, I get to hear a lot about what's going on. And because my sources know that this channel in particular and myself are massive Stargate fans, when there's an opportunity to get me some information, they tend to grab it. In this case, there was a conversation between a very senior MGM executive and people from a wider audience of the industry. They were mostly agents and things like this. The discussion was about how the recently announced redundancies over Amazon and MGM might affect certain projects that were already in the pipeline. So were there going to be delays? Were there going to be any shortages of staff, etc., etc.? During that meeting, the conversation did come around, though, to projects that haven't yet been announced and whether there would be any impact on those. Obviously, these are talent agents and things. They're thinking about the next job. So they asked the question. Now, this high-up executive then went on a bit of a rant, apparently, and I've asked around a little bit, and apparently this is not necessarily out of character for him. He is known to be a little bit fiery, let's say.
You want answers!
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
And he was asked specifically about cinematic projects like RoboCop, and Stargate was brought up. He actually specifically stated that RoboCop was on the back burner, so was the Stargate movie, and that it was probably going to get scrapped. Now, he did not say the RoboCop movie would be scrapped, but he did point to Stargate and suggest that it was dead. So why is this happening, and what was then discussed in the meeting? Well, cinema in the last 3 years or so has changed dramatically. Comparisons can be drawn to what happened in the 80s when cinema nearly died because of the advent of blockbusters and the video shop. Straight-to-video movies really did become the in vogue thing for a little while, and cinemas really struggled. But we moved on, and we did go back to the cinema. And in the last 15 years or so, the big blockbuster really had a resurgence. We had those massive superhero movies and huge franchises making $1 billion or more for every film that was released. The studios desperately clamored to get that next big blockbuster, that next big franchise that was going to make them their billions. But then COVID hit, and obviously that battered the cinemas. But when we returned, we stopped going to the theatres. Numbers are down dramatically. But more than that, during this period as well, streaming services really exploded. Partly again because of COVID, we suddenly saw big movies being released on streaming platforms first. It did seem that people kind of got used to that and then basically figured, why am I spending all that money to go to the cinema? It'll be on a streaming service in a couple of months anyway. I'll just wait. But to go even further, we started to get used to the straight-to-streaming movies being of much higher quality, cinematic quality. Amazon have been doing it for a little while, Netflix have been doing it for ages, but Disney started doing it, Paramount started doing it, and all of a sudden our expectations changed. I honestly believe now that audiences demand virtually cinema quality for everything, all of their big TV shows. Look at The Lord of the Rings, a TV show that cost a lot of money to make. It was beautifully filmed, and people still complained about the special effects occasionally. Look at the new Star Trek series. They cost nearly $10 million an episode to make, mainly because the CGI, the sets, the quality of the actors, we demand it all to be to the highest standard. And there is maybe a little bit of an attitude that's creeped in with the audience that because we expect such high levels for TV, cinema isn't special anymore. So we stopped going. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that thumbs up, leave a comment and all those things. But also go and check us out on patreon.com/SciTrek. Most of our videos do premiere there first. This video actually premiered nearly 10 hours before it did on YouTube. And a lot of our videos actually premiere 24 hours before they do on YouTube. So go over, check that out. It's taken the big studios a little while to maybe realize this, but Amazon do seem to have realized it. They did have a plan that they were going to invest $1 billion a year into cinema. I'm being told that that's no longer the case. We've seen that recently with the Roadhouse movie starring Jake Gyllenhaal that's no longer going to be going to the cinema, but straight to streaming instead. And I think we're going to see that a lot more. A-list actors are now appearing in direct-to-streaming movies. The business model makes sense for these streaming providers because it keeps the customer happy and keeps subscriptions growing. But also, it limits their risk. They know how many subscribers they've got. They know their budget. They can just then spend that budget on movies each year. But if you send a movie to the cinema and spend 300 million, you kind of need to see a return on that, or it's considered a massive flop and it makes your company look bad. And there are too many movies recently that have made their companies look bad, Indiana Jones. So it does seem that studios are turning their back on cinema. So this MGM source is saying that Amazon are no longer going to be moving forwards with a cinematic Stargate movie. How does that fit into some of the rumors we've again been able to exclusively drop on the SciTrek channel? Well, one of the things we'd actually said was at the start of 2023 that we were hearing that Mark Fergus, the guy that brought us The Expanse, the guy from Penguin and a Parker, the guy that wrote Iron Man, was in negotiations to do something with Stargate. When The Expanse ended, Amazon executives went, "What do you fancy?" And he went, "I fancy a bit of Stargate, please." And he did a bunch of development work for this cinematic project back when they weren't even sure what they were doing with it. Now, I heard that those negotiations actually ended late December 2022. Part of the reason was Mark Fergus basically said, "Look, I need to crack on with God of War, Penguin and Parker's next big project for Amazon. I need to know, though, if we're doing Stargate, is it a movie? Is it a series? What sort of budget am I looking at? Where is it going to show? Is it going to be on Prime or Freevee or MGM Plus? Because that's all going to affect the tone of the project I'm planning." And Amazon couldn't give him any answers. Now, I hear that then the decision to do the cinematic movie kicked in just after that in January, February, and the development work did proceed. We've even heard they were talking to directors, etc. But then it seems at the end of the strikes, around August, maybe September, there was a big meeting between MGM and Amazon, and MGM basically made the argument that no, it should be a streaming series and it should go on MGM Plus. Now, I know that that meeting happened because I have sources that were involved, but we never found out what the result was. So we have negotiations that we believe ended last Christmas, and we heard rumors of them starting again in April, but we're not sure. We've heard rumors of this meeting, and we're not sure of the result. And around the same time of that meeting, maybe just before, I heard rumors directly from the MGM and Amazon marketing department for their distribution company that they were looking at plans for everything they were planning to do in the next 6 months or so. Everything that basically the marketing department was planning to release news, etc. But they were told not to bother looking at Stargate. Now, at the time, we wondered, is that a good thing? Is that because they've gone ahead? Oh, we might get an announcement soon. But we did as well mentioned at the time that this might actually be a bad thing. It might be because the project was on hold or maybe even dead. And now it looks like dead. But there might be a silver lining.
I'm not dead.
Yeah, he says he's not dead.
Yes, he is.
Now, this is partly speculation, and we're going to add 2 and 2 to hopefully equal 4 here a little bit. But when asked, this high-up executive did state that MGM Plus would be getting a Stargate series, but it probably wouldn't be this year. Now, that opens up an interesting possibility. We're still going to be getting Stargate. We're actually going to get the series most fans really want. That's all good. But it also opens up another interesting possibility. It shows that Amazon can be convinced to change their minds. It shows that MGM Plus actually can convince Amazon to change its mind. And that the executives like Mike Wright over MGM Plus can still have an influence with people like Jennifer Salke over Amazon. And if that is the case, we know that there are big players at MGM Plus that are still very supportive of Brad Wright, that he has his fans over there, and that Mike Wright is one of them. So, if MGM Plus does really get its hands on a Stargate series, could that increase the possibility of Brad Wright getting involved or somebody else? Maybe Robert Cooper or Joseph Malozzi, or maybe a couple of them. It's an interesting possibility, and we can only cross our fingers. The MGM executive did, though, talk a lot in this meeting about how frustrated MGM was, particularly within the current climate with Amazon. They said they had lots of projects on the go, including Stargate. They had plans for Stargate. They had Brad Wright's script, and they had another idea as well, and they were developing them strongly. We could have been on our second or third season of Stargate by now if Amazon had just let MGM do it. That frustration apparently did bubble over a little bit in this meeting. So that is the upside, potentially. There is a very serious downside here, though, and a massive risk. I was told a little over a year ago now by somebody that does work in this industry for a very long time and knows the industry. Doesn't necessarily have any inside knowledge about Stargate or MGM, but knows the industry. And he basically said, look, a franchise like this, we need it now. The momentum is with it. It was trending on Twitter quite regularly and things like that. But if it wasn't announced by he said late spring, early summer of 2023, then he honestly expected this not to happen for several years. And when you get to around the 20-year mark of a series leaving our screens, then it becomes very difficult to do any sort of continuation. And at that point, a hard reboot is far more likely, or at very least, some sort of project that is only loosely based on the original. We would not be getting any legacy characters back, etc., etc. So, it does feel like this is a now or never situation. Let's hope it's now. And let's hope it's the series we really wanted in the first place. Guys, get into the comments and tell me what you think. This has been dragging on. I've been able to tell you everything that's going on, and, at times it's been frustrating. Seeing behind the curtain has really shown us that these people don't really seem to know what the hell they're doing. But I'd love to know what you think now. Is dropping the movie, if that's what's happened, really a good idea? And in that case, do you think that's more or less likely we're going to be now getting the series we mostly wanted in the first place anyway? Get in the comments, tell me exactly what you think. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. It really helps us out and you'll never miss any of our new videos. Also, go to patreon.com/SciTrek, where most of our new videos do premiere first, and you get to see them without the adverts. Finally, go to scitrek.co.uk, which is our dedicated website, and we do articles based on a lot of our videos with a little bit more information for you to digest. Go check it out. As always, please stay safe, and I'll see you next time.